Hello, chess fans. Welcome to another edition of Chess Chat, a program designed to give you a good understanding of the game of chess. Brought to you live from the Workers' Credit Union studios at Fitchburg Access Television. I am your host, George Merijanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club had been meeting every Wednesday evening in the McKay complex at the university, but since the pandemic earlier this year, we've been actually on sabbatical, basically, and hopefully we'll return once it's been declared safe that we can return and play in person at Fitchburg State University. But with me today, once again, with us at the Workers' Credit Union Studios is our award-winning director, Darren Dame, in the control room. He's assisted in the control room by fellow resident, Fitchburg resident, Brian Bigelow, a longtime Wachusett Chess Club member. And across from me is my trusty colleague, co-host, chess author, chess photographer, a computer wizard who handles all our computer statistics at the Wachusett Chess Club, and that's none other than our own Dave Kuchar of Westminster. Hi there, Dave.
Hello, George.
Good to see you, Dave.
Good to see you.
Always a pleasure seeing you. Well, Dave, we have once again another major chess tournament to report on. Mm-hmm. And this tournament, what is the tournament we're going to tell our viewers about today? I mean, what?
The U.S. Women's Chess Championship.
U.S. Women's Chess Championship. Now, was this conducted online?
It was online this year.
Okay. And again, who actually organized this?
Under the auspices of the St. Louis Chess Club.
And they did the U.S. Girls Junior Championship, which we did the last Chess Chat.
And the Open Championship.
Okay. Now, how many? If it's the Women's Championship, how many females played in this?
I believe it's 12, right?
12 is correct. Okay. Well, actually, our trusty director, Darren Dave, actually has photos of all the participants. And let's show, actually, our viewers at home who played in this year's U.S. Championship. Right. And we're going to start with Anna Zatonsky. Now, there you see a photo of Anna Zatonsky. She was the oldest player in the tournament, 42 years old. And you know how many times she's won this U.S. Women's Championship?
Right.
Four times.
Four times.
And she was born in Ukraine. Okay. But she came to this country and she actually won it. Okay, what was her first year that she won it? I have it somewhere here. I think it was 2006, if I'm not mistaken. 2006, but she won it 3 times after that. Mm-hmm. So she came in, unfortunately, last with 3.5 points out of a possible 11. Yep. Okay, who actually came in? Actually, there was a tie. Let's go to the next female. And this is Sabina Francesca Foizer, a women grandmaster from Romania, but she lives in the United States now. And she actually from North Carolina.
And she won it, right? 2 years ago, I think?
Yes, she did. In fact, 2019. No.
2 years ago.
What, did she actually Sabina win it? When did Sabina win this?
2 or 3 years ago.
Sabina won in 2017, right. Okay. It was 3 years ago. I should point out, actually, that Anna Zatonsky is from California, whereas Sabina is from North Carolina. Okay. Okay. Let's move up to the next. Now here is 18-year-old Women International Master Thalia Cervantes. And she was born in Cuba. Yeah. Okay. And she came in tied for 9th through 11th. She tied actually with Sabina. And you know how she learned chess?
No.
By watching men in Havana, Cuba, on the street. Men who were playing chess on the street. Yeah. She learned the game just by watching them.
Wow.
And she became, a master, international master, women international master. Now let's move up to the next female on our list, who was also involved in a tie, and this is none other than Annie Wang, an international master. Now, Annie, where is Annie from? She's from California also, and she scored 4 points, as did Thalia Cervantes and Sabina. They all tied, 9th through 11th. So let's move up to the person who came in clear 8th place. Who came in clear 8th place? Well, here is The youngest player in the tournament, 16-year-old Martha Samadashvili, who lives in New York, and she scored 4.5 points out of 11. She's a women's FIDE master. FIDE is the acronym for the World Chess Federation.
Yep.
So she's the youngest player, and she did very well as a 16-year-old. All right, who came in clear 7th place, working up? That's women international master Emmeline Gwynn of Texas. She scored 5 points out of 11, and she's 18 years old. Okay, we now have a tie for 5th and 6th. And who do we have actually in that tie? We have a women international master, Ashritha Eswaran of California. She's now 20 years old. She was 19 when the tournament ended, but she has since turned 20 years old.
Yeah.
So
that may be an old picture too.
that's right. She's now 20, so she's in her mid-teens,
Yeah.
I'm sure, in that photo. Let's move up who tied her for 5th and 6th place. And this is a women grandmaster Tatev Abrahamian, who lives in Glendale, California, and actually is going to turn 33 next month on January 13th.
Okay.
She has a birthday coming up next month, and she scored 5.5 points to tie with Asritha for 5th and 6th place. Now, do we have somebody who came in clear 4th place? And that is none other than Jennifer Yu, a women grandmaster. She's 18 years old, and she won the women's championship last year, 2019.
Yep.
Yeah, so she's one of the top female players in the country, winning the women's championship last year. Now here's a player I was unaware of until she left her country, her native country, Iran.
Oh, that's right.
We're going to see her, Dorsa Derakhshani.
Right.
Dorsa Derakhshani, who was born in Tehran, Iran, is 22 years old. She lives actually in I think she lives in St. Louis.
I think she might be going to college in that area.
Yeah, either St. Louis University or Webster University, one of the colleges there. And she scored 7.5 points. And she's an international master. And she finished in clear 3rd place in this year's U.S. Women's Championship.
Yeah, we could mention that she used to play for Iran, but they sanctioned her for not wearing the hijab in the tournament, and she played without the hijab, so they sanctioned her. She decided she was done with
Iran. She didn't want to
right?
stay in Iran, so she left Iran.
Yep. So not the only player they've lost.
Wow. Okay.
Right, because Fallujah
also
is no longer playing for Iran.
Right. So we're going to show who came in clear 2nd place.
Yep.
We saw Dorsa coming in 3rd, but here is, now this is no stranger to us.
Right.
This is none other than our 2014 Wachusett Chess Club champion, now 17 years old, Carissa Yip.
Yep.
International master Carissa Yip.
Yep.
And she came in scoring 8 points out of 11. And she lives in Andover, Massachusetts. She used to live in Chelmsford.
Right.
When she lived in Chelmsford, she was coming every week to Fitchburg State University and playing at the Wachusett Chess Club. So she came in clear 2nd.
Half a point.
Half a point behind the winner.
Yep.
And who won this year's U.S. Women's Championship? We're going to show a photo of Irina Krush.
Yep.
Ukrainian, she was born in Ukraine.
Right.
They pronounce it Krush.
Okay.
Irina Krush. Fellow Ukrainians would say Irina Krush.
Okay.
We say Krush. I think she accepts the pronunciation Krush because she likes to crush her opponents.
Right. Absolutely.
So Irina, she won it with 8.5 points out of 11, and she lives in New York. And by the way, she's got a birthday coming up in 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
On December 24th, the Christmas Eve, she's going to turn 37 years old. She was the 2nd oldest player in the tournament. Anna Satonsky was oldest.
Yep.
She's the 2nd oldest. And you told me that this was Irina's 8th U.S. Women's Championship.
Yep.
And you know what? When she won it in 1998, she was the youngest female ever to win it. You know how old she was when she won it? 14 years old when she won it. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
At 14, she won it?
Yep.
All right.
And she survived COVID this year. I guess she had a pretty...
She had COVID. She was infected with COVID, and she survived COVID.
Yeah, and I think she had a pretty bad case of it, too.
She did,
as I
right.
recall.
Thank God that she survived the virus. Okay, but what we're gonna show our Chess Chat viewers, okay, is not an arena game, because all her games seem to be lengthy.
Yeah.
You
We
would
needed something short, yeah.
You actually picked out a very good game for us to show our viewers, and this is a game that actually Carissa Yip, who's the runner-up in this year's U.S. Women's Championship, played against Tatev Abrahamian.
Yep.
And this was from round 6. I think you told me it was round 6.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Now, who had white in this game?
So Tatev had white.
Okay. So how did Tatev open her game against Carissa in round 6? By playing what?
With e4.
Excellent opening move. We played this
opening lines for the bishop and the queen.
Many times.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So how did Carissa respond to that?
Carissa responds in kind with e5.
Okay. All right. We have like basically
Yep.
a double king pawn opening right now. We have no specific name yet.
Right.
Okay. How did Tatev continue?
Knight f3 attacking the pawn.
Okay. Has to be defended. Black doesn't want to lose that pawn.
Exactly. So the most common way to defend it is knight to c6.
Right. Exactly. All right. Okay. And now how does Tatev continue with a third move?
Bishop b5. So she's attacking the defender.
Okay. Which is defending the pawn. Right.
Right.
By the way, do we have a name for this opening now as a result of that bishop going to b5?
My best attempt at pronouncing it would be Ruy Lopez.
Ruy Lopez? Yes. When I started playing chess more than 60 years ago, I played this.
Yep.
And I always knew this as the Ruy Lopez.
Yep.
But you know what the most of the world calls this?
The Spanish, I think.
The Spanish opening or Spanish game.
Yep.
Why is that? Why did we call it for years and years Ruy Lopez, and the rest of the world calls it the Spanish opening or Spanish game?
I think because Ruy Lopez was a Spanish bishop, right?
Yeah, well, I think he could have been a bishop. He definitely was a priest.
A priest, okay.
Yeah, here's a story. I hope I have time for the story, because I think it's good to know. The reason this is called the Ruy Lopez or Spanish opening by most of the world is that he was a 16th century Spanish priest.
Okay.
He came out with a book. He wrote a book on chess, one of the oldest books around, in 1561, of course in Spanish. Okay. And he did this after he was called to Rome by the Pope, Pope Pius IV. Pope Pius had called him to Rome, said, I need you on some ecclesiastical business. Yeah, he went to Rome already. You know how he spent his time? Playing a lot of chess. I don't know whether he's tending to churchly duties, but he went there in actually 1559. 2 years later, he came out with a book on chess. And you know what he wrote in his book about chess? He said, by the way, Ruy Lopez never played the Ruy Lopez Open.
Really?
Why was this opening named after him? Because he came out with a book, and he said, Knight c6 on the second move is not a good move. That's why he said, I would never play knight c6 because it allows bishop b5. He was the one that pointed out, because of bishop b5, you don't want to play knight c6.
Okay.
But let's point out to our viewers, Ruy Lopez never played the Ruy Lopez opening. It's only because he wrote the book and said, don't play it.
Okay.
Don't play knight c6. Okay, I digress. Anyways, how did Carissa respond to bishop b5?
a6.
Okay.
So she's putting the question to the bishop. He either has to exchange or retreat.
Okay. And what does Tatev decide to do on her?
She plays the most common move, which is just retreat it to a4.
Right. Bobby Fischer in his later years would take the knight on
exchange it, right?
Not in his early years. When Fischer in his early years would retreat the bishop to a4 like Tatev just did in this game, but later on, Fischer would take the knight on c6. Okay. How did Carissa respond?
So Carissa plays knight f6, developing the knight, attacking the pawn on e4.
Okay. All right. I should pay attention to what we see on the screen here.
Yep. So Tatev on her fifth move plays d3, defending the pawn, opening up a diagonal to develop the bishop.
Okay. Now that's not actually, that is actually seemed to be very now in vogue. You know what the classical continuation is?
Nope.
Instead of d3, instead of defending the pawn, is strictly castle.
Just castle.
Kingside castling.
Okay.
This is what they consider the classical continuation. But this has actually become very popular now just to defend the pawn immediately with d3. Okay. So now what does Carissa do?
Carissa's fifth move, she plays d6.
Okay.
So opening up a diagonal for her bishop.
Okay,
She's
good move.
blocking this, but she's going to develop it in a different way.
All right. And now comes what?
c3.
Now, why is Tatev playing c3?
Well, you had pointed out earlier that the main reason is so that if the bishop gets attacked, it's got a square to go to where...
Yeah, because actually this bishop, if c3 were not played now,
right,
that bishop would be attacked with the pawn
right,
on
would have to go
b5,
here and it could then be
and
attacked.
the knight on a5 would attack it, and the bishop would be
lost.
exchanged
Right.
for the knight.
Yep.
So this is to provide an escape square for the bishop to retreat,
right,
if it comes under attack.
and also possibly support a push to d4
Yes,
later.
it also allows for a possible advance of the d pawn to d4. Okay, what did Carissa do now?
So Carissa plays a move she's been playing lately that and having great success with, it was pointed out, g6. So she can fianchetto her bishop to g7.
But Dave, we saw this move before.
Right,
You know where we saw this before? And our very keen Chess Chat viewers at home saw this. If they remember the Chess Chat we did in March of this year, when we did the Cairns Cup in St. Louis, which was actually in person, it wasn't an online tournament, Carissa adopted the same fianchetto defense against the Ruy Lopez opening against the women's world champion,
right,
Ju Wen-jun.
and won the game.
And won the game.
Right.
So this is no stranger to us and to very sharp Chess Chat viewers at home who remember that game from March of this year. Okay, again, I digress. But let's continue here.
So her seventh move, Tatev castles.
Okay. And of course, Carissa now continues with her fianchetto.
Bishop to g7.
We see the bishop going from f8 to g7.
Yep.
Okay. Now what does Tatev do on her eighth move?
Develops the knight to d2.
Right. And this is standard. Ruy Lopez, players who play Ruy Lopez make that maneuver from the knight on b1 to d2.
Right.
And we're going to see where it's going to end up. Okay. What did
Carissa castled on her eighth move.
Okay, her eighth move. Now Tatev's ninth move. What does she do?
Ninth move, she plays rook to e1.
Because the rook has no future staying on f1.
Let's move it to a file that's going to probably open up.
Right. It adds further defense of the pawn on e4. Okay. Now what does Carissa continue with?
Carissa plays b5, attacking the bishop.
And the bishop only has 2 squares to retreat. Where does she go?
Like you said, now that the c2 square is opened up, the bishop goes there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that was the whole purpose of playing c3 early to allow that retreat. Right. Otherwise, that bishop would have been eliminated by the knight.
It would have been here, right, attacked by the knight.
Okay, a very good move. All right, Chris's move.
10th move, bishop b7.
All right, okay. She's going to place it on the line. She's now fianchettoing the light squared bishop.
Both of her bishops, yeah.
Both bishops being fianchettoed. Okay, now it's Tatev's 11th move coming up.
Right, so she plays a4.
Attacks the b pawn.
Attacking the b pawn.
Okay, let's see that. We see it, yep.
And
now what does Carissa do?
Carissa moves her rook to the e file, rook to e8.
Yeah, because her rook on f8 has no future staying there.
Yep.
It needs to get onto a file. You know. The file is closed
right now,
but it's best to be on a closed file than stay on a file that's blocked.
Probably not going to open up, right?
Yeah, it hasn't opened up. It cannot be opened up. Okay, now whose move is it? It's Tatev.
Tatev's 12th move. So she plays knight f1. It's on the way to g3.
Right. So you see this maneuver from b1 to d2
here,
to f1.
Here. It's going to go there.
And this has been played millions of times by players who adopt the Ruy Lopez.
Ruy Lopez, yeah.
They adopt this maneuver. Okay, what does Carissa do now?
Now Carissa also redeploys. She plays her knight to b8.
Now wait, what is why is she retreating the knight or redeploying the knight?
And her idea is she's going
to
push the pawn up.
Yes.
And then put the knight back.
Okay, that's the idea behind that redeployment.
So she's going to have 2 pawns on that square. So
the contesting, trying to contest that d4 square. Okay. It's now Tatev's actually.
Yeah, knight g3.
Knight g3. Okay, 13th move by Tatev, knight g3. Now, Carissa carries out her plan.
Yeah, c5.
Let's see it. We see it now. C7 to c5. We see it. Right. Nicely played. Now we have an interesting move by Tatev.
Yep. So she plays h3.
Okay.
And we were thinking that mainly it's to make Luft, they call it.
Luft.
German for air.
That's a chess term.
Right.
The chess players use a German word. Luft means air.
Yeah.
It's space. I mean, it's Luft. So that's all she's doing.
So it's giving the king a square to move to, so you don't have to worry later on about getting checkmated on the back rank.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a good chess term to learn, chess channel viewers at home.
Making Luft, right.
Yeah.
And also, additionally, it keeps the knight out of the G4 square. So.
Right, actually it does. It keeps any piece out of G4. Okay, so what did Carissa do now in response to H3?
Continues her development.
Yep, brings the knight back.
To C6.
Okay. Tatev's 15th move coming up. What does she do?
She develops her bishop to G5, pinning this knight.
All right, now I know, knowing Carissa as you and I know, I don't think Carissa likes that bishop there.
No.
I think she finds that bishop very annoying, pinning that knight.
Right.
So how does Carissa respond to that pin?
So she plays H6, attacking the bishop.
And what she's saying, she says, hey, you're either going to take my knight or you're going to get out of there.
Right.
What does Tatev decide to do?
Tatev does retreat it. She
yes,
plays
right.
bishop to E3.
The best thing. It's not good to give up that dark squared bishop for the knight. It's best to just retreat the bishop back to E3, which she did on the 16th move. All right, Carissa's now 16th move. What does she do?
She plays Queen E7.
Okay.
So now her rooks are connected, and now she's freed up this square for...
Right, she vacated that D8 square for the rook on A to come over to the D file. Okay. This is very classic, play by Carissa, but also Tatev is also playing very well here. Yeah. And nothing is really happening. They're all just developing pieces,
right?
Bringing pieces into play.
Nothing's been exchanged yet.
Right. So now what does Tatev do?
So now she plays bishop to B3, and you were mentioning it's probably because she feels like this diagonal is not going to open up. Yeah, she feels look, she's got the pawn on D3, the pawn on E4. She says, I have too much garbage on that diagonal. Yep. She probably says, I don't have any future keeping the bishop on C2 along that B1 to H7 diagonal. Yep. So she redeploys the bishop to B3. Right. And
decides to stay on that diagonal.
17th move plays rook A to D8.
Okay.
The square she just freed up.
Yeah, we see that on our screen here.
Yep.
Now what does Tatev do on her 18th move?
Our first exchange, she plays A takes B5.
Okay, we see, and now the next move is forced. Yep. Carissa just recaptures.
Also takes
A takes B5. Yep. Okay, good. All right, now what does Tatev do now? It's her 19th move coming up?
Yep. So she plays knight H4.
Now, now we have that on the screen, yes.
Yep.
Now, if we can keep that, we just keep this, our director will keep the screen for our viewers. Do our viewers at home see what White's threat is here? Do they see what White is threatening now in this position with the knight on H4?
Okay.
Should we give them a few seconds?
Give them a few seconds.
And then you'll give the answer
now the
to our
answer
viewers.
Is if we change to the board.
Now we'll go back to the board.
We look at the board.
The threat is
she's threatening to take this pawn
on G6
because this can't take back because it's pinned by this bishop.
Yeah, so
this pawn is being threatened right now.
So that's the threat.
That is the threat.
The knight to take the pawn on G6, which attacks the queen, and the knight cannot be taken because the pawn on F7 is pinned. Okay, so what does Carissa do?
So she plays D5, which, among other things, blocks the bishop. So it unpins this pawn. So
doesn't that refute knight H4?
Right.
The knight H4 maneuver threatening knight takes G6 is refuted by Carissa's move of D5.
Sort of, shows it to be kind of a waste of time. Probably
it was a waste to go to H4 if Carissa has the reply D5.
Right, but it looks like her next move is to put the queen on F3 where the knight was. So she might have been thinking, I want to free up that square, but this is really a mistake.
So this is actually a serious mistake.
This is a serious mistake.
Okay.
I mean, it's.
Yeah, we see the queen on F3, yeah.
Basically, this queen's going to be coming under attack.
Wow, okay.
Very soon.
Now Carissa comes up with another great move.
C4.
Attacking the bishop. Wow, look at this. All right, so how is Tatev going to respond to this C4 move? Oh, she She takes?
She takes, so she's counterattacking this knight.
He takes d5. Yeah, the e-pawn takes the pawn at d5, attacking the knight on c6,
Right.
I see. Okay. But now Carissa comes up with another super move.
Right. e4, attacking the queen.
And the bishop on b3 is attacked by the pawn.
Is attacked, and also now this e5 square is freed up for that knight.
Oy. This is unbelievable. How does Tatev get out of this mess?
So Tatev grabs the knight on e4 with the knight.
On her 22nd move, knight takes e4. We see it on our screen there. And now here is the...
And now here's, like I said, the knight comes to e5 attacking the queen.
Right. In fact, she doesn't take the bishop on b4 with the pawn,
right.
which she could have.
Right.
I mean, Carissa could. But she plays what we call a Zwischenzug. What is a Zwischenzug?
An in-between move.
In-between move. Another German term for an in-between move. Zwischenzug. Instead of... she could have won that bishop with the pawn. But she decides not even.
We have the signal to move it along. All right.
Let's move it along. Okay, fine. Let's do it.
Queen plays queen to g3.
Right. Yep, okay. And now what happens?
And now Carissa attacks again with knight to h5.
On a 23rd move, okay. Yep. And now what does Tatev do now?
Tatev sees, she's running out of squares for her queen to go to. So she plays d6, counterattacking.
Attacks the queen.
Carissa's queen.
And now
Carissa grabs it. Rook takes d6.
We're going to see rook. Yep, we see it right there. Rook takes d6, and to which Tatev now responds with?
She plays knight takes d6, so she grabs a rook.
Yep, we see knight takes d6. And now Carissa says, thank you for the queen, right?
So Carissa gets the queen.
Knight takes g3, 25th move by Carissa. And now what?
And Tatev takes another rook. So she's got two rooks for the queen.
Knight takes on e8, the rook on e8. She takes on her 26th move, to which Carissa now says, thank you for the
knight on h4.
The knight on h4 with the queen. There it is. Queen takes h4.
So we have to keep in mind this. You got all these pieces bearing down on the king. You got this bishop, both knights, the queen.
They're dropping like flies here.
Yeah, and Tatev realizes she can't take here, or she's going to get checkmated very soon.
So what she says, I gotta start grabbing material.
Yep.
So knight takes g7 on the 27th move. Yep, there it is. The knight is on
and
g7.
Now Carissa comes up with this beauty.
Brilliant. A brilliant
knight
move
F3
by Carissa
check.
Yip. This is unbelievable.
And mate is now going to be forced. There is no way to avoid it.
She has to take the knight.
This is her
king
only
cannot
move.
F takes G. Yeah, G takes
F3.
F3. Okay, and now what does Carissa do? We're going to see what?
Keeps on coming. Queen takes h3.
Yeah, we see the queen taking the pawn on h3, to which...
so she's threatening mate on...
There's a mate on h1.
h1, so Tatev plays...
F takes the pawn
g3.
G3. And Carissa now plays what?
Queen takes g3. Check.
Check. Now she cannot go to h1 because she'll get
mated.
She'll get mated with the
one move. So king f1 is the only choice.
The king has to go to f1 on the 30th move, to which we see it.
Carissa plays queen takes f3.
Let's see. We see queen takes pawn on f3. Check. The king cannot move to g1 because it will be mated on
so the only choice is bishop interposes
must
on f2.
Block. Tatev must block with the bishop. We see the bishop going back to f2. And now Carissa plays...
Queen h3, check.
Let's see it. Queen h3, check. The king cannot go to g1 because it'll be mated with the queen on g2. So the king has to go to what?
e2.
e2. And now, what happens now?
Now Carissa plays queen, takes d3, mate.
Wow. Ends the game with checkmate. That's rare at top level chess. You don't usually see players a lot, having games ending with checkmate.
I think that's called a swallowtail mate because it looks like the tail of a swallow.
It does. That's what it's called. So a great game by Carissa Yip coming in again. This game put her in second place, clear second place in this year's U.S. Championship. But Irina Krush, her 8th U.S. Women's Championship. Irina Krush, she'll turn 37 years old in a couple of weeks.
So congratulations to Irina.
Congratulations to Irina, living in Brooklyn, New York. And we wish her well in 2021. So stay tuned for our next edition of Chess Chat.